Let it be said that the Chinese don't suffer fools gladly. It's China. No breaks given. Firstly, let me acknowledge it's February 2020, and Beijing right now is in the midst of its battle against the coronavirus. Nobody's going to go to Beijing at this time, but hopefully it will not last forever. Our first stop on this epic trip was Beijing, China, and that was definitely on the bucket list. But not every trip goes as planned. We flew 13 hours from Vancouver to Beijing. That was good enough. We expected to use the 144-hour visa-free transit to spend a couple of days in Beijing. But we screwed up. So we were ordered to fly back to Vancouver the same night. So straight Beijing off the bucket list, but not for the right reason. We flew on November the 16th, 2019 from Vancouver to Beijing, and the flight was 11 hours and 35 minutes, not 13 hours. I envisioned that we'd be spending at least 10 hours flying over the Pacific Ocean. But if you look at the flight route here, almost 80% of it, 90% of it is over land as you fly from Vancouver up to Alaska over the Bering Strait and into Beijing. An amazing discovery. And after what seems like an awful long time, you arrive at Beijing Airport. It says here 31 kilometers. We all know when you go to China you have to have a visa, but there is a 144-hour visa-free transit to certain cities in China, Beijing being one of them. Just to repeat, you can stay for 144 hours in that city or around that city without a visa, just as long as you meet certain conditions. It's actually very simple. You have to have a flight into Beijing, which obviously we had, and you have to have a flight out of China within those 144 hours, which we thought we had. I remember how happy Barbara was to have found a flight that went from Beijing to Siem Reap, Cambodia. Remember, we were going to a wedding in Siem Reap, Cambodia. And then she added, oh, by the way, there's a stop in Guangzhou. I thought, oh well, that's rather inconvenient, but I didn't think anything more of it. I even naively thought we wouldn't have to change planes. I think at this point you get the picture. Well, the key point, it turns out, is that the flight from Beijing to in this case Siem Reap, should be non-stop, without a stopover anywhere in mainland China. Uh-oh, that's where we goofed up. But we screwed up. So we were ordered to fly back to Vancouver the same night. I don't fly well, and I don't think I could have lasted another 11 or 12 hours on the plane back to Vancouver. After about half an hour with time spent with Chinese bureaucracy, which led us nowhere, this agent from Air China showed up who spent about an hour with us to arrange a flight, not back to Vancouver, but a flight to Bangkok on the same night. Well, we were only too glad to take that alternative. This booking to Bangkok only worked out because I happened to have my laptop with me, and the Air China agent used his cell phone as a hotspot, so I was able to connect to the internet. There was no internet connection at the airport in general. The importance of having my laptop with me was that it allowed me to make a visa payment on the flight to Bangkok. Otherwise, we wouldn't have been able to buy a flight. Let it be said that the Chinese don't suffer fools gladly. After all, we did have a flight out of China to Bangkok. What would have been the difference if we would have flown 3 days later? Well, it's China. No breaks given. Full disclosure, in Vancouver, Air Canada did question us as to our stopover in China, and phone calls were made to higher authorities, but we were let onto the plane, even though the plane was delayed by 15 minutes due to our situation. Hard to believe this is the first time Air Canada dealt with these circumstances. We did write a letter to Air Canada, by the way. Ultimately, it was our responsibility, and I should have read very, very carefully what's on this particular website. Please check it carefully before you go to China. If you've gotten this far in this video, thank you very much, and please give it a thumbs up. Hit the subscribe button and the alert button, and you won't miss a single episode to be published every Friday.